All right. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. Just a couple of housekeeping items. Your camera's off and your mics are muted, but we would love to hear from you and answer any questions that you've got. So use that Q&A button to ask your questions. My name is Erica Klages. I am the Assistant Director of Amateurism Review in the Eligibility Center. And I am joining you today to give a brief update on where we are in the Eligibility Center certification process and what you can expect as we jump into certification season here starting in April. I want to give you a reminder that the PowerPoint is already uploaded to the Division III webinars page on ncaa.org. And the recording will be posted there by the end of the week. Okay, today, we're going to talk just a little bit about what the Eligibility Center is, some important numbers for us to consider as we go forward, and then we're going to jump into the certification process and what those next steps are going to be. Lastly, we will talk about previous and future education opportunities as we move forward. Before we get started, and as a reminder of what the Eligibility Center is, the Eligibility Center is a unit within the NCAA that's responsible for evaluating and certifying college-bound student athletes for collegiate competition at Divisions I, II, and now Division III. Division III doesn't need academic certification, so we're going to focus on the sports participation. However, we do have a great customer service team that can answer your questions in real time. But we also offer educational opportunities such as this webinar throughout the year. And for your future international prospective student athletes, we are the front porch of the NCAA. Their first stop on their way to competing at a Division III institution is going to be getting certified by the Eligibility Center. We have a very quick rundown of the Eligibility Center. We've got two sides of the house. We've got an internal and an external side. The internal side is run by Mike Massa. He's our Managing Director of External Affairs, and within his team is the Academic and Amateurism Review team. They are the team that handle more high complexity amateurism certifications. And then we've got a customer service team and our outreach and strategic partnerships teams. That is the team that handles all of our education and opportunities for us to engage with you, the membership. On our internal side, Gary DeCastro is the Managing Director of Internal Operations, and his team is comprised of our core processing staff, who they handle probably 99% of amateurism certifications and all of our academic certifications. Our high school review team is the team that certifies core courses and high schools. You likely will not interact with the high school review team very much in the Division III side without academic certifications. But then we've got our operations, analytics, and innovation team, and these are people who keep our ship running. They make sure that everything we need to do our jobs is working appropriately, and they give us the tools we need to move forward and keep improving. The Eligibility Center, some numbers here. We see about 200,000 registrants annually, and we issue decisions for about 100,000 of those. Of those, there are about 8,000 international PSAs from 200 countries, and we do all of this with about 50 full-time employees. And if there's anything you need to know about us, is that the NCAA loves acronyms. So a few acronyms and definitions that you might hear regularly moving forward. If you hear me talk about a PSA, you know that that's a prospective student athlete. That's a recruit, a college-bound student. It also includes transfers from 2- or 4-year institutions, international colleges, or PSAs from other NCAA divisions, Division I or II. The IRL is the institution's request list. This notes to the Eligibility Center that the PSA needs an amateurism decision. And you'll hear us talk about certifications. PSAs who meet the definition of an international student athlete need an amateurism decision for Division III. They can accomplish that with either an amateurism only certification account or an academic and amateurism certification account. If they already have registered with that academic and amateurism account, let's just go ahead and use that one. No need to make them register twice. And here we're going to talk about where we are right now by the numbers. So since the last time we talked, we are up to 193 Division III schools with access to the Eligibility Center membership portal. So we're almost to 50%. I'm really excited about that. It's a huge jump since the last time we looked at these numbers. We have 3,500 PSAs with an amateurism only account. That number might be a little misleading. This is an account type that can be used by anyone who doesn't need an academic certification. So some of that population is going to be Division I and Division II PSAs. And lastly, we have 25 PSAs that are on an active Division III IRL. We have heard regularly from Division III that they will often find their recruits a lot later in the recruiting cycle. So that's completely fine. I would urge you to add your IRLs at the earliest opportunity. As soon as you identify a PSA as a recruit, put them on your IRL so we can get started on their certification as early as possible. And today we're going to talk about where we are right now and how what the next steps are going to be here coming in the coming days. And as a review, for those of you who attended or reviewed our July webinar documents, here's how the Division III process works. So we already have 193 Division III institutions with access to the Eligibility Center portal, so we're in a really good spot there. Then the PSA registers with their amateurism only certification account. And then we've got 25 D3 schools who have added, or 25 PSAs who have been added to a Division III IRL. So those are the first three steps of this process. Starting on April 1st, PSAs will start requesting their amateurism certification. So April 1, fall PSAs enrolling in fall of 2023 can start beginning to request their final amateurism on April 1. So April 1 is for all fall 23 enrollees. It is not limited to PSAs who will compete in the fall. So even spring sports student athletes who enroll in fall 23 will want to request their final amateurism as early as they can after April 1. Winter spring 2024 enrollees will have to wait until October 1st to request their final amateurism. This allows us to prioritize those PSAs who have more immediate needs for their certifications. We want to make sure that we can get to those soccer PSAs who need certifications in early August before we focus on PSAs who will not even get to campus for a few more months. We have here a handy one-pager for how to request final amateurism. A PSA will not get their final amateurism certification until they request one. So this one-pager walks you through the process. There is a link in the materials that are already that have already been posted to the governance website. I would suggest sharing this one-pager with all of your coaches, but especially those who may bring in international PSAs moving forward. Once PSAs start requesting their final amateurism certification, we're going to begin working on their accounts. At the end of this webinar, we're going to talk about, there's going to be more information for future educational sessions because I do not have the time to walk you through this entire process here in today's webinar. But I promise you that we will go into much more detail about what tasking and information requests and what an amateurism decision looks like. For today, just know that we may need more information than can be found in the PSA's registration responses. So when that happens, we are going to ask for more information in the form of a task. Once we've received all information that we need, we will issue a decision, and then you, the institution, and the PSA will both be notified. So we wanted to wait until closer to April 1 to talk about what decisions you're potentially going to see in that account. So that goes back to our future education sessions that we've got. So I'm not going to go into super detail for this page right now, but these are the statuses you might see when you put a PSA on IRL or when they get to a final decision. So we're going to start with a PSA will have a pending review account if we do not have enough information to make a final determination yet. So maybe there are open requests out for them to provide us more information, or maybe we've gotten everything and just haven't gotten around to reviewing it to issue that final decision. So that would be a pending review status. Final certified is a PSA who is ready to compete the minute they step on campus or the day that they get their final certified decision. Final certified with conditions is going to mean a delayed enrollment condition. These are PSAs who waited longer than their grace period and continued to compete in organized competition. These decisions are going to include loss of one or more seasons of competition and also a required academic year in residence. So they would be required to sit a year on campus before being eligible to compete. And then we would move on to a final not certified decision. These are PSAs who have a bylaw 12 violation, an amateurism violation. These PSAs to be reinstated and figure out what their ultimate conditions would be. The institution can seek student athlete reinstatement through RSRO, request self-report online. And then there is a possibility that you might see a PSA that has a not applicable decision. Where we can, we like to give decisions for all divisions at the same time. But if there's a topic in one division that we are unable to give a decision without asking for more information, we would wait until that PSA is added to an active IRL in that division before we complete that amateurism certification. So if you have a PSA who enrolled in Division 1 and now they're transferring to Division 2, it's possible you'll see not applicable, but we would want to basically set that PSA back to pending review and then go through the entire process for Division 3. Here we have a amateurism certification frequently asked questions resource that we just released to through the Division 3 newsletter the middle of last week. This is a great document that's going to talk about the international student definition, the eligibility center registration process, as well as the amateurism certification process. So again, this is a clickable link here in the materials that are posted on the governance website. Here, I'm going to ask you to get out your phones because we do have a few QR codes coming up. So if you would like some additional materials, we're going to talk about upcoming educational opportunities. So we'll move forward. As we talked about just a little while ago, our next educational opportunity is on March 22nd. That is when we will focus on how a certification is processed and what those decisions mean in much more detail. So that webinar will also be followed by a session at Regional Rules in Indianapolis on May 17th. On the very next page, here's a QR code for that March 22nd webinar. This is from 3:30 to 4:30 p.m. Eastern time. We would love it if you would spend an hour of your time with us to hear details on what you can expect here starting on April 1st. Our most recent educational opportunity that we just completed was the convention down at San Antonio. We had really great attendance and audience participation. We got great questions from the crowd, so I highly recommend you check this one out if you weren't able to attend in person. We do have a recording of that event here on that clickable link. And we are continuing to build a vast library of content for our Division III members. So we've got recordings of previous webinars that we've given. We've got links to all of our Division III newsletters. And on the next page here, we're going to talk about where we can find all of these things, which is in the Eligibility Center membership portal. If you click on the link resources tab and resource links, you'll be able to find all of those materials for your review. And one last QR code for you here about the membership portal. This is a tutorial for how to use the membership portal. So I'm going to leave this up for just a few seconds longer. In the membership portal, you will also be able to find more resources for where to find information, where to find your PSAs, activating them on your IRLs, tracking their information as they go through the certification process. So highly recommend that you check this out as well. And at this time, I'm going to check with Katie to see if we have any questions come through that Q&A button.
We have had a couple. The first one is maybe more of a correction that we can make, but the one-pager link on the final amateurism document, it took it to a different resource. So we will get that updated in the PDF, and we'll get that fixed. So not really a question for that one, but wanted to note that.
Thank you.
Another question. So this is just for new students. Is that correct? They don't have to go to ones who are already on campus.
Correct. Any students who are enrolling at a Division III institution for the first time after August 1st of 23. So for fall 23 and moving forward, only PSAs who are new to the Division III institution or Division III at all.
Great. And then to clarify, PSAs who are non-US citizens are required to get the amateurism only account certification?
So it's not based on citizenship. The three-pronged test here is basically, did you attend secondary or post-secondary outside of the United States? Do you have permanent residence outside of the United States, or did you compete outside of the United States? So that's really our three-pronged test. But those are the athletes that prospective student athletes who would be required to go through this. If you have any questions about whether your particular student athlete needs a decision, an amateurism certification by the Eligibility Center, I would recommend putting those through as an interpretation request for our AMA staff to weigh in on.
Thank you. And next one, if a refugee is now a US citizen, do they have to go through the EC process?
It is kind of going back to that three-prong question. If they trigger any one of those, even if they're here in the United States, then they may. I need to know a little bit more information about that, but it is potentially likely that they would still need to go through this process.
Okay, and next one, are they understanding correctly that they may not know about the status of winter and spring student athletes until after October 1st when they're already on campus?
So it's winter, spring enrollees, not winter spring sports. So if your winter spring sport, say a softball prospective student athlete, enrolls in the fall, we can start doing certifications on those student athletes starting April 1. It would be just a student athlete who's not enrolling until January or so, that those student athletes would wait until October 1st to request their certification.
Awesome. Next one. Can you please explain the logic on classifying recruits that have competed at some point as international?
I actually cannot provide any clarification on that. That is part of the legislation, which was approved by ILC. I would direct you to AMA for any clarification on that, and again, to determine if your particular student athlete meets that definition.
Okay, and the last one I have on here right now. What about students that may decide during their time, not prior to enrollment, to become a part of a team? Do we direct them through the same process?
Yes. So let's say a prospective student athlete decides in their junior year that they want to try to walk on. That if the PSA enrolled at the Division III institution in fall 23, and 2 years from now they decide they want to enroll or join a team, they would go through the same process as if they had joined the team when they got to campus. They would still go through the amateurism certification process.
Thank you. And we just got another one. Which resource did you say earlier in here would be helpful to send to coaches? Was it the six-page long one, or was it the one pager, or was there a different one that we're not thinking of?
It was, I believe, the one pager for. Apologize. No, it was not certainly the 6-page one. It was for requesting final amateurism.
Okay.
That resource, those coaches could then forward on to their PSAs to make sure that they are requesting final amateurism as early in the process as possible.
Thank you. And that's the one that we will need to change the link on, because it currently links to the FAQ.
Okay.
So for those who are looking for that, we will update that link as soon as possible.
We will fix that.
So, and just to circle back on another question, because I don't know if we got the answer or didn't hear it. This process is only for new incoming international PSAs, not currently enrolled international student athletes.
Correct. That is correct.
I do not have any new questions coming in, and we want to give it another couple of minutes.
Yeah, we've got a couple more slides. We can touch on those, and then if any questions come in, we can circle back. But basically here, we'd love it if you would give our social media accounts a follow. On Twitter and Facebook, it's at NCAAEC. On Instagram, it is at Play College Sports. And our last QR code for you. I would appreciate it if you would give us some feedback in the form of a short survey. I would love to know how I did, but also how we can improve and what you want to hear about in future opportunities. This is an opportunity for you to tell us what you need from us.
And while we leave that one up on the screen, there's one question that came in.
Okay,
Another one I think maybe you answered, but let's just circle back on it. So if a student is already there and not participating and then decides to participate, they have to go through this, correct?
So I think that may be actually an interpretive question. If somebody enrolled last year and decides they want to compete this year, the definition says that this is only for PSAs who enroll on or after fall of 23. So if you've got somebody who was on campus last year and did not compete, I do not believe that that PSA would need a certification by the Eligibility Center. But moving forward, if they enroll after fall of 23 and then down the line decide they want to be a student athlete, they would need to go back through the process. So it's kind of that cutoff of when did they enroll? Did they enroll before or after fall of 23?
Great. And another one, would we need to certify a New York kid that is currently playing in Canada?
That is a great question. On the FAQ there, it does mention an exception for a team who travels across the border. The example is Canada. However, beyond that exception, I think we would need to know more information, and I would direct you to submit that as an interpretive request through to AMA. If they have any questions and don't feel that they're able to answer that without further guidance, they are able to take it back to ILC where the definition came from, and get us a better idea of whether that PSA would meet the definition or not.
Thank you. And nothing else has come in while you were giving that answer. So I might close it out there, but if you have any other questions, you can either email me and I will forward it on to Erica and her team, or you can email Erica directly, I think.
Yeah, we have an email address, ecinfo, ECINFO @ncaa.org. You can send all of your questions there, and the questions will get where they need to go, whether that is to be answered by me or by one of our customer service staff, or even for the AMA staff. So ecinfo @ncaa.org. Right, and I will again say thank you for spending some time with me this afternoon. I really appreciate the opportunity to share what the Eligibility Center is doing, and get ready for April 1st for our first certification season.